Hello, everyone. Welcome to part 7 of the academic research series. So, in the previous video, we talked about journal submission and the peer review process. So, today we are going to talk about how to submit your paper in a research conference and different types of papers that goes into a research conference. Now, although most conferences are not as valuable as journals, but it is a very good way for scientists to network with each other. So, let's dive in. So first of all, we are going to look at the difference between a journal and a research conference. And in this way, I'm going to elaborate what a conference actually means and what to expect from a conference. The first thing is the purpose. So the purpose of a journal is to disseminate complete in-depth findings with a lot of experiments. So you have the supplementary figures, supplementary data, like I showed you before. I mean, in the previous tutorial, we already showed all of these things. But conference is not like that. In conference, we are mainly going to present preliminary or ongoing research, basically incremental work. So just to elaborate this a little bit further, you are going to mainly focus on brief summaries, focus on key findings and work in progress. That means it's an incremental development. So incremental developments are mostly there in the conferences. Okay. And that is why in conference papers, you just have one PDF and that's it. There is no supplementary figures, there is no supplementary data, there is no other, EGA repository or things like that. Okay. So since the content is like a brief summary or incremental development, it is also much shorter. So in conferences, there are some restrictions in the number of pages you can write. So typically the page number is 4 to 10 pages in a conference, but in journal, there is normally no restriction. You can have many, many pages. Then you have the review process. Now, as you saw before, in journal, there is this reviewer report, revision, then again reviewer report, revision. There is this revision cycle. You do 2 to 3 times or even 4 times. I mean, in one of my journal papers, I actually had to revise it 5 times, right? But in conference, it's not that case. In conferences, what will happen is there will be only one review by the reviewers. You can just look at the reviews and that's it. You cannot do anything about it. I mean, you can make some changes to your paper if you like, but if you don't want, you can avoid making the changes. Now, the thing is, in a journal, what happens is you have major revision, right? You have a chance to improve your paper and to get it accepted. But in a conference, where after you submit the paper, you don't have any more chance to make it better so that it gets accepted. The reviewers give you comments, and if the program chair of the conference, so in the conference there is the program chair, okay, the program committee, the conference committee, there is no editor, there is conference committee. If the committee thinks that reviewers are not giving very positive feedback, then they will just reject the paper or they will just accept the paper. So it's a one-time thing. So it's very fast. It typically takes a couple of months to publish a paper in a conference after submission. So in a journal, there is no need to do a live presentation. Basically, you just submit the paper, review process is ongoing, and then the paper is published. But in conference, you need to do live presentation. So if the conference is being held in Paris or France, you need to go to France on that date and you need to present your work. That is the thing. That is a major difference between a journal and a conference. And because you have to go and present the work in front of a lot of people, so there is arrangement and stuff ongoing for the conference, you need to pay a registration fee to attend the conference. Okay. And that registration fee is sort of the publication fee as well. It accounts for the publication fee as well. I mean, even if your paper hasn't been published, suppose you have submitted a paper, but it wasn't accepted, or maybe you haven't submitted a paper at all. Still, you can attend a conference by making the payment and by filling up a form. Okay, just to see what other people are working on. And actually, many people do that. Many students especially do that. The supervisors of the students encourage them to do it to learn about the recent trends in the field. Okay. So one other thing I want to mention is that when you try to submit your paper to a journal, there is no strict deadline. I mean, it's not like you have to submit your paper by 30th April or something like that. But in conference, the deadlines are extremely strict. So every conference, each year, let me give an example. Suppose you have a conference, say a triple AI conference. Okay, you have triple AI conference. Now, in triple AI conference, this conference will be held every year. Sometime in some year it will not happen, but typically it will happen at an yearly basis. So every year, the conference people will give you a deadline for the paper submission. Say the deadline is 30th September. You have to submit your paper by 30th September and you cannot get any more extra days for submission. So the deadline is very strict. The revision date, it's the same thing for everything. The review process and everything goes on in a tight schedule, and that is why conferences are extremely fast. Now, another thing is, I also want to discuss a few other things because conferences are not as prestigious as journals typically, but in some domains such as computer science, right? I wouldn't say computer science, I would say especially AI and machine learning. Top conferences are extremely, extremely prestigious. But I will say it again, in other fields such as engineering or maybe psychology, medical science, biomedical science, then bioinformatics, in those cases, conference is not nearly as prestigious as journal. But for AI and machine learning, conference is extremely prestigious. And you can actually see the conference rankings of the different conferences in computer science. There is a website for this. I will show you the website now. So this is the website. You can just search this up in Google and they will give you the full list. So this is the conference ranking. Okay, so the top conference is CVPR, and you can see that the impact score is extremely high. So I think in tutorial number 5, yes, tutorial number 5, I talked about impact factor, the average citation count for the recent works. So impact score is very similar to that. And you can see that this impact score is extremely, extremely high. So the top conferences in the field are extremely, extremely valuable. Okay. And another thing I want to mention is in this website, you can also search conferences by like field. For example, there are many fields here, but they are all part of like computer science. It's not for other field. Okay. And also, since I talked about deadlines, I talked about conference deadlines. Now the question is, if you are a computer science student and if you're looking to publish your paper in a conference, then how do you know which conference actually wants the submission in which date? So how do you know the deadlines of the different conferences? So actually there is this website where they put up all the deadlines of the conference for the current year. So you can view that website. I will give you the link. I will give both of these links to the description of the video. Okay, so for other fields, apart from computer science, there should be this kind of things as well. You can search for this as well. Okay, fine. Now, let's see another thing. I will search with this computer science conference ranking. Okay, let me go here. You can see some rankings here. A plus, then there is A grade conferences, then there is B grade, C grade. So A grade is the highest quality, A plus is the highest quality. A grade is a little bit lower, but it's still very good. B is still good. Not as good as A plus and A, but still good. C is basically standard, like they are maintaining some standards. That is why they're actually there in the core conference rankings. But if your computer science conference does not come in any one of these categories, then probably you may want to rethink before submitting your paper there, because it will not hold a lot of value in the field. That is my suggestion. Okay, now what we are going to do is we are going to look at the different types of conference papers. Okay, so there are mainly five different types of conference paper. Number one is the long paper or the original research track. So this is basically the most prestigious conference paper. So they sort of look like journal papers because they are like 8 to 10 page long and you have to give rigorous experiments and other things here. Then there is the workshop track, which is like, sometimes conferences ask for a specialized field submission, some specialized topic submission. Those go into workshop track. Then there is the abstract track, which is, just the abstract of the paper, and it is not prestigious or anything like that. It's just to actually show what you're working on and to get feedback from different people. Then there is the poster. I have never talked about poster before. I will talk about it in this tutorial. And finally, there is the tutorial track. I will talk about this as well. So for each of these 5 types, I will show you an example now. So let's start with the long paper or the original research track paper. You can see that if I click on the PDF right here, so this was published in ACL Anthology. So you can see that in this paper, there are a lot of references, tables, figures, and everything. And also there are like a lot of citations as well, right? So it looks like a journal paper. So this is actually a long paper. One very, very important thing you need to keep in mind is when you submit your paper to a conference, whether it is abstract, tutorial, workshop paper, whatever, you need to adhere to their Formatting. The format should be according to the conference, or else your paper will be desk rejected. It will not be even sent for review. For example, in order to make this paper, I simply searched ACL conference overleaf template. It is because I was submitting my paper to ACL conference. If you are submitting to some other conference, you can also search for that. So how you can use the overleaf template, I have video for that. I will give the link in the description of that video. Okay. Next, you have the workshop track. So you can see that Triple AI conference, which is a conference for AI, actually asked for papers on AI for agriculture track. So AI for agriculture, it's a very specific topic, specific domain. They asked for this kind of paper. So, and these papers are normally short. You can see that it's a 4-page paper, I mean, excluding references. So they normally give you like 3 to 4-page limit for this kind of paper. And they are actually much easier to get accepted because it doesn't go through that much rigorous peer review or that much filtering, because these are focus topics and not many people are working on this. They just want to actually highlight a few topics by bringing them in as workshop papers. Okay. So then there is the abstract or extended abstract. So if you look at conferences outside of computer science, for example, you can see this conference right here, a meeting abstract ASCO breakthrough, right? So if you look at here, this is the ASCO conference, meeting conference, and this is a conference for doctors, mainly doctors and biology people. And so in these conferences, people normally publish their abstract. So only the abstract. So what is there in the abstract? In abstract, there are the preliminary results. So what a particular scientist is working on and what is the intuition. So he simply presents his work in the conference in front of a lot of scientists. He gets some feedback, he talks with other scientists, and he sort of understands where he needs to make some improvement. Actually, these papers are originally targeted towards big journals, but even before publishing into a journal or submitted into a journal, the scientists just want to put their results up in these conferences, abstracts up in these conferences to grow the hype. So this is basically abstract submission, and a lot of conferences outside of computer science mainly are actually of this type. They will simply ask you to submit your abstract and they will either accept or reject your abstract. And then you need to submit your work in front of an audience. Finally, then you have got the poster. So what is a poster? If your abstract is actually accepted for presentation, you can be sent into one of two tracks. Track number 1 is the oral presentation, where you actually present your work in front of a lot of people by standing some place in front of a computer and a big screen. Another way this is done is they will not allow you oral presentation, but they will tell you to make a poster of your work. You need to stand with your poster, with a big poster on a nice poster stand, and everyone will come to you. They will ask questions, they will talk with you, they will interact with you, and they will try to understand your work. So this is a sample poster where I briefly talked about my supervisors and other people. Then I have the main idea of my work, my software details, my preliminary results, and also some of my applications, and the full paper can be found in this QR code. So this is, you can think of this as an ideal poster. You can follow this template and you can make your own poster if you have to make a poster. Finally, you have the tutorial. So tutorial, the thing you are watching right now, this is also a tutorial. It's a 9-part tutorial series, right? So tutorial is just like that also in conferences. So sometimes what conferences think is that this particular topic, it's now hyped up or it's a very niche topic and we want people to learn more about this topic. So they sort of call expert people to give a presentation or tutorial on this particular topic. For example, here in KDD conference, some people have given a tutorial on inference optimization for foundation models. So you can see that there are logistic materials right here. So I've clicked on it already. So it will take me to this page. You can actually go here to see how the slides look like. So see, it's a big tutorial, 167 pages, as you can see. So this is how the tutorial looks like. Okay. So that is all about conferences. So conference is not at all monotonous like journals. There are many variations, many types. It's a free form version of research, which is very cool. And computer science people, I think, adopted the conference more wholeheartedly compared to other fields. So in the next tutorial, I'm going to talk about how to become a terrible researcher. So you need to know what not to do in a research field, right? That is what I'm going to talk about next. And the link is there in the description for the video. And if you like the video, make sure to make some donation in the channel via the link in the description, because that helps us to make more good content like this. And also make sure to like and share and subscribe the video if you like the video. Thank you very much.